If you have an injury at the moment, or joint issues, tendon issues, or even something like a skin problem, then I have something here today that potentially could be very beneficial for you. Now, I'm always on the lookout for new technologies that's going to help me, my patients, and even you overcome your pain and improve your health. This is the Kineon Move Plus. It is a red light and laser therapy device that's designed to help you reduce your joint and muscle pain, reduce inflammation, and improve the cellular healing. I kept seeing the Move Plus everywhere online, and at first I thought that looks pretty cool, but it's probably just a bit of a gimmick. As I started to look more into what it is and what it can do, I started to think, okay, there may be something here. So that led me down this whole route of looking up what red light therapy is, what different wavelengths can do. And I'm going to touch a little bit on that in a minute, because I think if you can understand what red light therapy is, what it does and how it works, you will understand why the Move Plus potentially could be really beneficial for your joint issues or tendon issues or just repair in general. So I'm going to review what this is, what it does, how it works, is it safe, what I think of this whole thing in general. Are there things that could be improved, things I like, things I don't like? Now, before we go too far into what this device is, I think it's really important for you to know a little bit about red light therapy. Don't worry, I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. But this whole journey of learning about what this device is has led me down this road of learning about red light therapy. It's also called photobiomodulation, which sounds really complicated. But I'm telling you that because one, we can break that word down and explain what it means. But also two, if you want to go and do your research, there's a lot of published articles, peer-reviewed articles tested on humans and animals, looking at the effects of red light therapy. So it's a very well-studied field. And I would encourage you to go and do your own research to find out if it actually is something that has validity to it. So photobiomodulation, what does that mean? Well, photo means light, bio means sort of cellular, and modulation means the ability to change. So what we're talking about really with photobiomodulation is the ability to change the cells using light. That's essentially what it means. So light therapy comes under that category. Now, red light therapy is not something that's new, but we're seeing more and more devices coming out. We're seeing targeted devices like the Move Plus, and we're seeing things like red light panels. What we're looking at here is red light. When it comes to light, there's a whole spectrum. We have the ultraviolet, the blue light, yellow light, green light, and then go to the other end, which is the red light. They all have different effects on the body, so there's not really any one that's good or bad. But in terms of cellular healing, red light seems to be very well studied. This is the longer wavelength, and we measure it in terms of nanometers. This Move Plus has two types of wavelength. It has the red LEDs, which is 650 nanometers, which you can see. So when you look at the device, you can see 4 red lights in each of the circles. The other type is the laser, and that is 808 nanometers. So you can't see that with the naked eye. These two frequencies, or these two ranges of light, are very well researched when it comes to reducing pain, inflammation, and improving cellular repair. The red light, so all light, has an ability to stimulate certain cells within the body. The red light, because it penetrates deeper, it can go into your cells. It can do things like stimulate your mitochondria. Now, all cells have mitochondria, with the exception of red blood cells. But these mitochondria are producing energy. This is what gives you energy. Red light can penetrate into the cells and stimulate these mitochondria to produce more ATP, which is essentially energy. Now, different wavelengths will have slightly different effects on the body. I'm not going to go into too much more detail. But essentially what you need to know is that light, when it hits certain cells, it can set off a whole cascade of events, which eventually lead to a downstream effect. On a more macro sense, this can do things like increase blood flow to an area. It can decrease oxidative stress and inflammation. It can therefore reduce or help to reduce pain. Like I said, it also does things like stimulate the mitochondria, decrease inflammation, reduce the pro-inflammatory molecules. So essentially, this red light can help to speed up the recovery process. That's really all I wanted to say about red light. There's a lot of research. Go to something like PubMed, and look up or type in red light therapy or red light photobiomodulation and see all of the different publications that come about. It's something that I've done, and this is why I'm now believing in red light therapy. So now that we've got all of that out of the way, let's have a look again at the Move Plus. So here we have the Move Plus case. Just before we have a look at the actual Move Plus itself, I just want to point out one really cool thing, and that's this blue little rubber here. If you open that up, in here is a USB-C port, and that is how you charge the device. So rather than having to take it out of the case, you can just simply plug the cable in directly. So if we open it up, you will be presented with 3 modules. Each one of these is magnetically stored within the charging dock. If you take one of these out, you will be able to see they're quite small little units. And we'll cover the size of it in a minute, telling you what the difference is between this versus something like a red light panel. So you've got 3 of the units. Up here, you've got a little zip compartment. In here, you've got the charging cable, which is just a standard USB-C cable. And also you can put the strap in there as well. But I've actually got the strap just here. So that will fit in there, and then you can shut it all together. So you can shove this in your bag. You could take it traveling with you. Really easy to store and really easy to use and open up. So with the strap, you've got 3 compartments where you can plug the modules into. What you do is you take one of these modules out, you slip it in, and then click it down. Next one, you take this out, slip it in. It doesn't matter which one goes where, they are all identical. Take this out and slip it in. What you will notice though is that the module cases are slightly orientated differently. So you've got 2 sort of more vertical and 1 horizontal. So once you've got the Move Plus all set up like this in the strap, you can adjust the strap, and I will show you in a minute. The first thing you would need to do is to synchronize it. This was fairly simple. It was a tiny bit fiddly, but once you got it done, you don't need to resync them again, unless for some reason they come out of sync, but actually it's pretty easy once you know what you're doing. To turn them on, once you've charged them, all you do is press the power button on any one of the 3 devices, and it will turn the device on. Once you've got it on, all you need to then do is clip it into place, tighten up the strap however you need to. So it's all Velcro, tighten it up, and then hold it there. You can set these modules to be 5, 10, or 15 minutes in duration. I will touch on that in just a moment. So just going back to the strap, you've got the clip, which you can simply clip into place or release. And then you've got these longer bits here where you can make longer or shorter. It's on a little buckle, so just pull to whatever length you want. There's a little Velcro pad on the end of each of these straps, and then what I do is I just fold it over next to where the buckle is, just to stop it slipping. The strap, since we're on the subject of the strap, was possibly the only thing that slightly lets this device down. The reason I say that, mainly for me, was because of this buckle here. It just feels a tiny bit weak. Like if I was to maybe pull on it a bit hard, maybe this plastic could potentially break. So far it hasn't for me. The other thing is where you can tighten it or loosen it, this just slips a little bit too easy. Let me just turn this off so you can make sure you can see. So that just slips a tiny bit easy, but what I found is that I could just thread the end through the gap, and then it kind of secures it in place. Having spoken to Kineon, they are aware of this, and this is something that they are working on improving. So the good thing about the strap generally though is that you can make it much longer or shorter depending on what area you want to work. So for example, if I was working my wrist, which I showed you just a second ago, you have it on the shortest setting. If I was working, say, my elbow, because I've got a bit of bicep tendonitis in here, then I would just stick that in place, tighten up the straps, and then it's in place. turn it on, and sit there at my desk and just work. Now this brings me on to another point. The time duration that you can set for this device is 5, 10 or 15 minutes. And you can see how long you set it to based on where the light is. So it's easy to set the duration. All you do is turn it on, you hold the power button until it beeps, and that will change it to the next time duration. So that right now is at 5 minutes, hold it, 10 minutes, hold it, 15 minutes, and it will do that for all three of them. So once it's synced, they turn off and on together, and when you change the duration, they change together as you change it. Which brings me on to duration. I was sitting at my desk working with this just on my elbow, and I was doing it for 4 cycles of 15 minutes. But actually what it turns out is that there's an optimal length of time to use this device, or for any red light therapy. The optimum time is about 15 minutes. And apparently if you go over 15 minutes, the effects actually get worse. So I thought it might have just been sort of a more linear, where the effects sort of peak and then it just stays no matter how much you increase the time duration by. But what I'm told is that it's more like a bell-shaped curve. So you reach the peak and then it comes down. So if you're treating yourself for longer than 15 minutes with the Move Plus, actually the effectiveness of those treatments seems to decrease. So if you are going to use it for a maximum of 15 minutes per area, and you can do this twice a day. So what I've been doing is I've put it on my elbow 15 minutes, then my knee for 15 minutes. And what I've found is that I'm using this on areas that maybe I've tweaked in training. So I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I'm always getting injured in fingers or wrists or knees, shoulders, whatever. So after a heavy session of training, if I find that I'm quite sore, I will grab this, put it on the area that feels a little bit inflamed. So last night I had it on my wrist, put that on for 15 minutes. And when I woke up this morning, 15 minutes, and now it seems to be absolutely fine. So how effective is this device? So far, I've had really good results with acute pain. So as I've just said, with something like my wrist, also I had a hip issue as well, where I tweaked that in jiu-jitsu. I used this for my hip, for my wrist, for my bicep, when I inflame things. It seems then that the next day after I've used it, it feels absolutely almost back to normal. I've also got chronic issues as well. I've got a knee ligament damage on the medial collateral ligament, and I've got some tendonitis going on in my bicep or brachioradialis. I've been using that for both. I haven't at the moment had a complete resolution in the pain. So far I've only really been using this for about 1 to 2 weeks properly. What I mean by that is not using it for an hour. So I've been using it on my elbow for 15 minutes twice a day, my knee 15 minutes twice a day. And so far it does seem as though the pain is reducing. Now it's hard to tell whether that's placebo or whether that's actually happening. But for example, with my elbow, I'm able to now go into the gym and start doing more rehab work, which before was actually quite painful to do. So for example, bicep curls, I can still feel it, but I'm able to lift the weights and I'm starting to notice that I can tolerate heavier loads. Whereas before, just lifting the weights was painful no matter what the weight was. So what about the battery life of the Move Plus? Well, so far I'm really pleased with the battery life. It easily lasts a good hour, probably more, probably about 3 hours, I would say. I tend not to use it to the point of failure. I use it maybe on all of the parts of the body that I need to, and then put it in the charging dock and let it charge. It gives you an indication of how much power is in it. So when you look up close, you can see there's 4 little LED lights, white LED lights. As the battery starts to diminish, you can see instead of there being 4 bars, so this is 100% full, it goes down to 3, which is 75, 2, which is 50, 1, which is 25%. So it gives you an idea of how much each of these modules has in terms of the battery life. Charging is really simple. You just unclip each module from the strap, plug it in so that the contacts meet. So I'll just show you how simple it is. Just push, unclips, plug that in, push that out, and then plug that in, put the charging cable into the charging port, easy peasy. Another thing you can do with this is you can take out one or two of these modules individually and you can use them just one at a time. So if you have small areas of the body that you're trying to improve, let's say you're trying to work on a particular knuckle or somewhere else, like particular site of pain, I've been using the modules on my face. You may have noticed in some of my videos that I've had this redness on my face. I've been using these on my face over the last week to try and help with reducing the redness. I believe it seems to be helping. I will put up a picture or a little video clip of how my face was in a previous video, and obviously you can see how it is in today's video. So each one of these modules, there's 2 areas of light. Each one of these areas, 1 and 2, has 4 deep red LEDs, which are running at 650 nanometers of light, and 5 infrared lasers, which you can't see. So when you look at it, all you can see is the 4 LEDs. You can't see the 5 lasers, but the 5 lasers are running at about 808 nanometers wavelength. And these are the 2 wavelengths that seem to have really good results with reducing pain, inflammation, stimulating mitochondria, improving cellular repair. What about the quality of these modules? Well, I actually feel like these are very well made. Got some nice aluminum, or aluminium as we say in the UK, on the top. It's got a nice little rubber button here for the power. The rest of it is a plastic body. Where the light is housed, it feels very slightly rubbery. It's not rubber, but it feels slightly rubbery. One thing I would like to see on these modules is maybe some kind of silicone around the outside. And this might be something that Kineon are thinking about. I just feel like if it was slightly more texturized or slightly more silicone feeling, it might just grip to the skin that just tiny bit better. It actually grips pretty well, but I would imagine if I was moving it around too much, it might just slip slightly, which is why sometimes you need to just tighten up the strap. But overall, this is really nicely made, very well made. I've dropped these several times and they actually still work just absolutely fine. So they feel pretty robust. The housing units, again, I feel like very well made. I have no concerns about these breaking. The only thing that would probably cause them to break is if you're pulling on the strap too tight. The only bit that possibly could let you down is that little buckle, but I think Kineon are working to improve that anyway. So overall, the device is really well made. It feels nice when it's on, it doesn't get in the way. It'd be nice to somehow secure these straps a little bit better, something like an elastic band or maybe a bit more Velcro around it so you can tuck it in would be good. But they're just minor, and the strap is something that they're working on anyway, so I know that in a future edition that will improve. And you probably can buy a strap once they release it, so you don't have to buy the whole package again. A question that some people ask is, does it hurt? It doesn't hurt at all. You can put it anywhere on your body, you won't feel a thing. It is simply like just shining a torch on an area. One question you might have is, what about the size of these modules? If you search for red light therapy, you will come across a lot of different types of device. You might see panels, you might see beds, or half dome type things that you can lie underneath, or you might see face LED masks. So they all have slightly different purposes. Now, these you have right next to your skin, whereas the LED panels you would tend to sit a little bit further away from. So the benefit to this is that it's very targeted to a certain area, which means you don't need a whole panel. When you're sitting in front of a panel, some of that light will spread out, some of it will be dispersed, so it won't all focus on a particular area. So this would be better for localized targeted effects, whereas a red light panel, for example, would be better for more treating the whole area of your body. Both will have very good effects. There's just pros and cons to both. A red light panel would be way more expensive. These are obviously way more affordable. The Move Plus costs around £479. If you're in the US, you're looking at maybe about $499, whereas a red light therapy panel might retail for around about £1,000 or $1,000, $1,500. Another great thing about this whole device is that it's relatively small. So you could literally shove it all together, stick that in your bag, take that away with you if you're going away for a weekend, if you're going to training, if you're going even on an airplane, you can stick that in your luggage and it's really simple. Whereas a panel or even a mask, you're probably not going to be able to fit it in your bag. Most of those will require some kind of power to it, whereas this is all battery operated. One question that you naturally are going to be asking is, does this work? Is it worth the money and does it work? Well, like with anything, this is simply a tool. So don't expect to be using this for a few days and have magical results. This needs to be done consistently. Kineon say that areas that are well supplied with blood, larger areas such as knees, shoulders, elbows, lower back, these sort of areas you would expect to see results within about 2 to 3 weeks. If you're using it daily, maybe twice a day for around 15 minutes. For smaller areas that are not so well supplied with blood, such as your knuckles, your wrists, you would expect to see results maybe within about 3 to 4 weeks. I believe I have seen results so far. I certainly felt results when it comes to acute issues. When I've been training and I've tweaked something, I've used this, and I believe that the next day it's not painful compared to what I would expect if I hadn't have used it. But it's important that you're doing other things around using this as well. Eating healthy, drinking plenty of fluids, sleeping well, moving enough, but not so much that you're going to aggravate the injury. So if you do all of these things together, this is a tool that will help you in your recovery. So I believe it works. I believe that there is a lot of very well researched evidence to support the use of red light and infrared. So from that basis alone, the science is there to back it up. You just have to be consistent. You have to use it in the right dosage, 5 to 15 minutes, and then you're probably going to see some results. Now you might be wondering if you can get this where you are. If you're in the US, you most definitely can, US or Canada. If you're in Europe, yes, you can. And for most other areas around the world, I believe they do ship internationally as well. So go on their website and have a look. I believe you probably can get it shipped to you. I know UK, Europe, and the US and Canada definitely. If you are interested in learning more about the Kineon Move Plus, go to their website. They've got loads of reviews. They've got a lot of science on there. So you can learn a lot on their website alone. If you do want to find out more about the Kineon and you want to go to their website, there is a link in the description below, which will take you to their site and it will actually give you a discount on the price. This is a sponsored video. However, I would not recommend a product if I did not think it was worth it. So the fact that I am reviewing or recommending this is based on the fact that I believe it works and I think it will help you with your joint problems, your tendon problems, skin issues, and many other things. So go and do your research, find out what it can do, and let me know what you think of the Kineon Move Plus.